Hello, all you weebs. Weebs is a non-binary term, so you weebs. And you might be thinking, oh, but Sam, I'm not a weeaboo. But you're the one who clicked on this video, aren't you, darling? So, today, usually we do stuff on games, but today, tis the season, a new anime season specifically. So, I thought I would pick out a few anime shows that I thought were interesting in the summer 2019 season, even though it's winter down here, but whatever. And just kind of review them and give you guys an idea of what I think of some of these things based on, like, one episode, which, you know, probably not the best way to review things, but we're gonna do it. Let's start off with the first one, which is Kanata no Astra, otherwise known as Astral Lost in Space. The year is 2061, when space travel is now possible and commercially viable, and the students of Caird... How are you supposed to... Caird? I don't know, Caird High School embark on their planet camp. But soon after Group B5 arrived at their planetary campsite, a mysterious and unforeseen sentient light sphere warps its 9 members into outer space, stranding them 5,012 light years away from their home planet. With the discovery of an old unmanned spaceship nearby, the students must stay strong, manage their limited resources, and remain united in the darkness of space so that all of them can survive their long and likely perilous trek back home aboard the Astra. That sounds pretty cool. Like, I'll be real, I'm not, like, super into, like, super high sci-fi, like, oh, we're now like the Star Trek of anime. And I mean, like, part of it, my interest, I suppose, is, like, as much as this may or may not be a Star Trek kind of thing, it is also anime, so it's like, oh, that's an interesting kind of twist to it. So, I don't know, maybe this will be good, maybe it won't. Let's be honest, like, I've got like 4 that I'm doing, not in my top 2, maybe in my top 3. It's so weird to be, like, reviewing something immediately after. Usually I kind of, like, give myself a few days to kind of wrap my head around it. But I just finished Astral Lost in Space, and, I mean, I don't know. I sort of like it and I sort of don't. One thing I will say, when I started, I was not expecting that this was going to be a 47 minute, like, double length episode. So I wasn't really prepared for that. Actually, let me just check to see if they are that length throughout the entire thing. I don't think it will be. No, the rest of them, well, at least the second one, which has been released, is 23 minutes, so luckily not going to be 47 minutes for every single episode. But I guess at the same time, they, you know, did give themselves a good chunk of time to introduce their plot, which is, you know, exactly what the synopsis said. So it's very much... we've got this, you know, ragtag bunch of students who just happen to fit into just all the anime stereotypes. I mean, there's a dude in glasses that is the smart guy, and there is, you know, the one that is not necessarily African American, but, you know, darker skinned, who is the hot-headed one. There is, like, the fucking gothy, annoying person, and of course the main 2 leads are a pink-haired girl who's completely airheaded, and a dude who is basically just every shonen hero ever. But, you know, I mean, I guess they did give them, like, a bit of backstory. And kind of my assessment of it is, for me personally, I'm not much of a shonen person, so I don't know, I don't think I love it. But I can definitely see them doing some interesting stuff if they go kind of Anohana with it, where they kind of explore everybody's backstories and kind of have all those revelations and stuff. But I'm not necessarily expecting that. I don't know, it could be good. It could be good. You know, if you're into kind of Star Trek, that kind of space opera-y kind of stuff, might be up your alley. Not necessarily something I'm going to be slaving over, just like, oh man, I've got to see the new episode of this. But what about the next episode? What about the next show, I should say? Fuck. Let's get on to the second anime, which is Copcraft. So, 15 years ago, an unknown hyperspace gate opened over the Pacific. Beyond this gate lies Reto Samani, a strange alternate world where fairies and monsters live. Santori's a city where over 2 million immigrants live from both worlds. Okay. As a result, there are the haves and have-nots. Here is the world's newest city of dreams, but in the shadow of the chaos, crime is rampant, drugs, prostitution, and weapon trafficking. The detectives who stand up to these heinous crimes are the San Teresa City Police. When the detective K. Matoba and the alternate world knight Tirana, two individuals who differ in gender, personality, and even world of origin, meet, an incident erupts. Two worlds, two justices. From this, the curtain rises on a buddy police action story. Let's be fucking honest about this. Here's the thing. I'm not as excited about this one as I am probably about the other ones. But because, like, really the only thing that really entices me about this story is literally just, oh, is this a buddy cop TV show? And I mean, I have absolutely no idea how that will translate into anime. I mean, I guess admittedly I've seen some stuff like Blood Blockade Battlefront kind of, I guess, had that kind of aesthetic of like they were all part of like a detective agency, and there's like, you know, the very comedic kind of conflict between some of those people. Like it still had like super serious stuff in it, but like maybe this will be like that, maybe it won't, I don't know. Let's have a look. Okay, so I've watched Copcraft. It's alright, but here's the thing. I'm out of all four of them. I mean, I've only watched two, I guess. So I mean, I guess the other two could be duds, but I'm crossing my fingers that like they probably won't. But like out of all of them so far, I'm like, this is probably the one I'm least likely to keep going with. Basic, like it is kind of buddy cop, but it's very cliched, which I guess I shouldn't be, you know, like, oh, I can't believe it's cliched, when, you know, I was kind of wanting something that was like a bit weird. So essentially it's a guy, his partner gets killed, and then he's immediately partnered with a new person who's from this alternate dimension, and of course, like, she's like a kid, and he's like, oh, it's just a child and whatever, and she's bossing him around and being all tsundere and whatever, and being like, oh, well, I thought you policeman, because, you know, she doesn't understand, like, you know, Earth stuff. Is, you know, is 99% of the jokes coming from her is like, oh, policeman or whatever, you know, like fight for like the good of humanity. And he's like, well, I'm like, you know, an older man that's had to deal with shit, including, you know, very recently my partner being killed. So, you know, he's a bit more kind of, you know, hard boiled. So it is an interesting pairing, but it's kind of one of those things where I'm just like it's only been one episode and it's already grating on me, even though like this is obviously a thing where I'm trying to review an entire anime based on a single episode, which is, you know, like a good way to kind of, you know, just get through and kind of stay relevant, and, you know, not be like, oh, 4 weeks after the season started, let's talk about the season. But like I might give it like one more episode, but I can't really see myself watching the full season unless it picks up quite a lot. Yeah, not my thing, really. This is the first of the two ones that I'm the most excited about this season. Anime number 3 is Dr. Stone. It's an interesting premise. I'm interested to see where they take that. Also, one thing I'd like to just comment on before we even get into the synopsis. I saw a fucking thing on like Polygon that was like, oh, Dr. Stone is like isekai, you know, without the magic. And I was just like so amused because I was just like, oh yeah, the magic of isekai. Sure. Yeah, isekai. The genre, which for those of you who don't know, is basically the, oh, a person gets trapped in a video game kind of thing where they have to kind of, you know, work their way through these fantasy problems and whatever. And if I may be so blunt, fuck isekais. Like, since Sword Art Online got popular, fucking everyone is doing isekais. It is so fucking infuriating. Like, literally, if you look at the summer anime list of, like, all the new animes, like, half a dozen of them are fucking isekais. There's, like, it's an isekai, but the guy's mum is really powerful. It's an isekai, but this guy's like a demon and something, but he's really a nice guy, or whatever. It's like, There is a reason that I fucking, when I review stuff, most of the stuff that I review is indie. One, because it's easier to get copies of indie games, but mainly because, like, indie games are way more interesting because they're not like, I'm gonna buy the next Call of Duty. You know, it fucking pisses me off so much that there's so much isekai. And that's why I basically, not included any isekai in this list. Unless you can count Dr. Stone. But let's look at the synopsis, because I don't think it's super isekai. One fateful day, all of humanity was petrified by a blinding flash of light. After several millennia, high schooler Taiju wakes up to find himself lost in a world of statues. However, he's not alone. His science-loving friend Senku's been up and running for a few months, and he's got a grand plan in mind to kickstart civilization with the power of science. I'm into this, because, I will straight up say, one thing that did really attract me to this is just, fucking look at the insane bullshit that is the main character's hair. And also, I found it very weird, seeing that picture of him, being, super sneering, and then it's oh, he's the good guy? What? But then again, I guess, as much as I really need to just stop talking about anime cliches, but at the same time, that kind of makes sense. It's oh, he's the smart guy who thinks he's smarter than everyone else and kind of looks down on everyone and therefore looks arrogant. Makes sense, I suppose. But it's an interesting idea. I've read kind of half of the first volume of the manga, because sometimes I don't read the manga, but usually in a case like this where I'm gonna just watch the anime, I'm very excited. Let's see what I think of it. So, Dr. Stone. So, I've watched the first episode. And I'm interested. But the simple fact of the matter is that I was uncertain as to how they were going to make an entire season out of this premise. And I sort of get it now. I sort of get the logic of, as they go through the season, they'll get more and more competent and more able to figure out how to deal with certain situations as they progress. I'm not necessarily convinced that this will be able to create a good full season of a show, but the simple fact of the matter is, the ideas, the whole apocalypse thing, the whole we're starting again from the Stone Age kind of thing, it's cool, but yeah, I don't know if there's a good full season of anime there. It looks pretty. I don't hate the dynamic of the two main characters as much as I did at the start, because it was just oh, here's the brains, here's the brawn, and I thought Senku would get really tiring, and he's a little tiring. I can imagine over the course of a full season, he'll be grating on my nerves by the end of it. But I can see myself continuing to watch this for a bit, so I don't know, it's not bad. Okay, and let's talk about the final anime that I'm going to be watching as part of this kind of preview thing, which is Fire Force. This is probably the one I'm most excited for. Firstly, because it's a pretty cool premise, as we'll get to in a short moment. But the second reason is that it is being character designed and everything. Atsushi Okubo. And if you don't know that name, you may or may not know his very, very, very cool anime that he was involved with, which was Soul Eater. It's one of my favorite anime, and it's one of those things where if you look at two images of them, of the characters side by side, you're oh yeah, same creator 100%. Some of the characters have zigzag pointy teeth and they have the same eyes and everything. So I think if nothing else for that reason, it definitely set a very good impression with me. But let's get into the story of it though. Year 198 of the solar era in Tokyo, special fire brigades are fighting against a phenomenon called spontaneous human combustion, where human beings are turned into living infernos called infernals. While the infernals are first generation cases of spontaneous human combustion, later generations possessed the ability to manipulate flames while retaining human form. Shinra Kusakabe, a youth who gained the nickname Devil's Footprints for his ability to ignite his feet at will, joins the Special Fire Force Company 8, which composes of other flame users as they work to extinguish any infernals they encounter. As a faction that is creating infernals appears, Shira begins to uncover the truth behind a mysterious fire that caused the death of his family 12 years ago. So, I mean, it kind of sounds a lot actually like Blue Exorcist, but like with everyone being part of a special fire brigade. I mean, like one of them seems to be like a witch, and like one of them seems to be like a nun, so it's kind of bringing this whole like fire brigade meets, exorcism squad kind of thing, and it just looks cool. I mean, part of that is literally just that it is being run by Akuba in terms of the character design, so once again looks very Soul Eater, which I'm into. So yeah, out of all four of them, this is the one that I've been the most excited for, and hopefully this is one that I'm just like, yeah, I'm totally gonna watch the full season of this shit. But we'll see. Okay, so I just finished watching Fire Force, and I'd like to just say, yeah, good work me. I feel, yeah, like out of the 4 anime that I've watched for this like little review roundup thing, Fire Force I definitely think is the best one out of the 4. I mean, like, not only is the character design cool, but like there's lots of like little elements that I really like that I think contribute to quite a lot of good anime, having a good pilot and a good setup. It was very actiony, it was very dramatic, but there was still lots of really good character moments. Like, one that I'd love to just zero in, because it's just like a tiny detail, but it's such a interesting little character quirk, is that the main character Shinra has this tendency that when he is really nervous, he like smiles, and that some people find that disconcerting, and I think that also is great because it really works into his kind of narrative that he kind of has, where people think that he's a demon of some kind, like he apparently was accused of, he wasn't accused, but like in the public eye everyone thought that he caused the death of his mother, whereas he's like, oh no, it was someone else. Which reminds me a bit of Dead Man Wonderland, actually, off the top of my head. So it kind of has that, and that's kind of nice because like not only do we have like the individual episode arc, but that's kind of already kind of creating a big kind of overarching narrative for the protagonist, which is nice. I think even elements of like the mechanics somewhat of the story, of like the idea that these people are kind of not only like fighting demons, but they're helping them lay to rest, is really nice, because it kind of lends itself to like being really actiony and dramatic, but the ending always has this kind of wonderful kind of finality and this kind of melancholy to it, which I don't know, I find it really interesting. Like I don't think I've really watched many anime like that. Like I've watched shonens where they have crazy fights, but not where at the end of it they're like amen, well, the equivalent of amen, because it's kind of supposed to be this kind of exorcist kind of laying to rest kind of thing. I don't know, I really dig it. Like, it's really cool. Like I'm interested. I'm somewhat interested in like the mystery thing, but I think the thing that I love more than anything else, and I guess this, could be brought back to Soul Eater, and kind of actually, in a sense, brought back to all animes that I really love, Anohana, Durarara, Baccano, that kind of stuff, is that I really like the characters. I really like the interaction with the characters. It's, comedic and offbeat. It feels... it feels kind of in that, the US office dramedy kind of, thing where everyone has like their own weird, quirky relationships and their weird personality quirks and stuff. And it just looks really fun, and I'm really into that. So that, I have to say, is like my, given that I haven't watched all like the anime and I'm literally just basing it off the first episode, that is the one I'm easily the most excited about this season. So I want you guys to tell me, like, what are you excited for in this anime season? Maybe tell me if you want more anime coverage. I don't know. Like, I'm as the main person who does a lot of the videos for 8-bit, I'm always looking for like what else is like super interesting that I can tell you guys about, and we can review about, and we can jam about and discuss and all that kind of jazz. So yeah, this has actually been pretty fun. Like, I mean, admittedly, there's a bunch of editing that I have to do. I'm not even sure how I'm gonna like do this without potentially getting copyright strike. I don't know, but I'll work it out. Thank you all for watching. Of course, comment, like, subscribe. Tell me if you want my anime content, and please also, what is the other thing that you should do? You should go to Patreon and you should support us, because we'll be making like lots of awesome new content. Even just recently, we started a new podcast, which is Hoop Dreams. That one. I know so much about it because I love sports. Wink. But it's super awesome, and it's super awesome that we get to have all these interesting conversations about all kinds of different topics. Maybe we should have an anime podcast. Tell us your podcast ideas. Whatever. Anyway, yeah. I have to, at some point in this rambling bullshit, say goodbye. So I will do it now. Happy anime. Sayonara. Arigatou gozaimasu. Genko wa oki desu? No, I shouldn't say that because people might not be able to translate. Bye.